By request, this video is showing how you can use standard stepper motors with one of these very generic and cheap drivers. In this case, I'm going to be using a very basic controller that simply allows you to vary the speed across a fairly decent range, and it also allows you to enable or disable the motor and slam it into reverse if you wish. So you've got basically control over something like, say for instance, a screwdriver or something, or a conveyor belt. Very simple. If you want more control, you can use things like Arduinos or ESP modules, and you can have sort of position sensing and ballistic curves and things like that. But this is just a very basic control system, and I'm going to reverse engineer this in a different video. I've already reverse engineered it, but it's very simple. It's based on a 555, but the circuitry is not simple. They've used it in a very odd way. But anyway, let's take a look at the information on this unit. So the unit has a little set of 6 dip switches, and they're listed on the unit with switches 1 to 3 being the microsteps, or basically speaking, the resolution of the stepper motor. If you go for the lowest, which is 1, which is a fairly coarse control, it may actually cause reduced torque in the motor. So it's better probably using a sort of high resolution. In the case of this test, I've got it up at its highest resolution of 32 sort of micro steps, and that gives much smoother operation, and it slows the speed down, pulses per revolution, to about 6,400, which is quite a lot of pulses, but it gives you very fine control of the speed. But you can adjust this to suit your application. But you can also, in the case of this, you can adjust the resolution of this as well. It's got some various settings. The next set of switches are the current setting switches, and by setting switches 4, 5 and 6, you can tell it the current the motor is driven with. In this case, I've got it set at 1 amp, and it does regulate the current through the motor with that. And the reason I've got it set for that is because during the test, when I was ramping it up to full speed, it was actually losing grip, the magnetic grip, and it would stall and just buzz. But you can set the current to ideally, it would be the lowest comfortable current you can use in your application. You don't want to just automatically default to the highest current, because that will result in more heat from the motor. Now, the connections, I'll show you them on a separate bit of paper. So we have the power into the module, and this is purely the motor power. It's nothing to do with the control signals, which are all opto-isolated. So we've got the power input. It says can go from 9 to 42 volts. Generally speaking, with the cheaper modules, I wouldn't recommend pushing the upper limit of that. So maybe 24 or 36 volts max. I'm running it on 12 volts. And then you've got the motor connection. The motor has 2 sets of windings, A and B. And generally speaking, you'll get a ribbon cable with many of these motors. And the colours will vary depending on who you get it from. If you connect it up wrong, then it's not usually going to cause any damage. It may mean the motor doesn't run, or it actually just stutters a bit. You can work out which windings are which by measuring across them, and they'll have a very low resistance, almost like a dead short, of roughly about, in the case of this one, about 3 ohms. But polarity is kind of important. Again, in some instances, if you get the polarity wrong, it may just vibrate and not rotate. You can fix it out, though, by trial and error. This one worked first time when I tried it, though. Next come the input signals. Now, these are from your microcontroller or this little board. It's got a fairly decent voltage input range. And also, notice how each input has a plus and a minus. That's because it's effectively a completely isolated, separate bit of circuitry for each one. And to keep it as simple as possible, it's got an LED and resistor. It's actually a bit more complicated than that. Inside this unit is a little current regulator, so that over a wide voltage range, the LED will be driven at the same current every time. And there are 2 types of circuitry in this unit here. For simple signals like the enable or direction, where it's just going to be one fixed state, it's a simple opto-isolator. But for the pulses that are actually driving it round in steps, it's got a buffered opto-isolator. It's the same LED circuitry here, but it's driving a buffered isolator with some logic in it, just to provide a filtered stream of high frequency pulses. And the reason it's got the separate plus and minus is you might have a separate bit of circuitry powering enable or direction, or it might just be that you can either use a common positive for them all or a common negative. In the case of this, I chose to use a common positive. So all I did was I looped all the positives together and then just switched these signals to the 0 volt rail. This little unit here actually swings between both rails. It will go positive and negative, so it can be used with either positive or negative. However, on the connector here, well, let me show you. And this connector here, it's only got 4 wires: enable, clock, direction, and ground. Now, it's interesting to note that this unit says pull for pulse. That actually means the clock signal. So enable, clock, direction, and ground. And that is echoed over here. They're just paralleled over. Enable, direction, and clock. And oddly, instead of actually saying positive and negative, it's got it in Chinese. Odd. But with this particular unit, you can supply it with 8 to 24 volts in the input to this, and it regulates it down to 5 volts on the board, and it uses a 555 to actually send those pulses out based on the position of the potentiometer here. And these switches are just basically the enable signal and the direction signal. Now, it's worth mentioning these little links here. See how I've got this bottom link in, J3, by the look of it? That is for the operation of this type of module. It's just a simple frequency, almost a pure square wave going out, but just a fixed frequency. But these links here will set a very a different resolution of the speed. So for instance, in the middle one, that's a sort of mid-range. In the bottom one, it's a very high speed range. So it'll start off faster, and as you turn the knob, it will get even faster. And at the top, it's got a very, very slow setting. But I can demonstrate that right now. The main thing to know is when you connect this up, you're connecting your power in here from your, either I'm using the same supply as this, but it doesn't have to be because it is isolated. And the signals you want are enable, direction, and clock or pulse, and either your choice of 0 volt or 5 volt out. They have indicated 0 volt on theirs. Okie dokie. Let me give you another demonstration of this, and I'll show you the different link positions and what happens. So I'll bring this back in, refocus. Actually, I'll just change the lighting a bit as well. So I've zoomed in a bit now, and you can see here's the direction button, changing the direction of the motor. Here's the enable and disable, which just stops sending pulses out. The motor is unpowered when you do that. And with these links, this one down here is for specialist applications. It's not something that we can really use with this driver. If I change it to the other position, which is pulse width modulation, all that happens is that when I rotate the knob, there's a very small change in the motor speed. It's not suitable for this. It's actually putting out pulse width modulation instead of a stream of ordinary pulses. It's varying the on to off ratio. So if I change that back, but I'll also at the same time, I'll change the speed link to the slowest. So now it's at the slowest, and this is at the lowest setting. You can see the motor is just barely crawling around there. But as I turn it up, the full speed setting is fairly slow. Now if I change it to the middle setting that we had it before and enable it, it starts off relatively slow, but as I turn it up, it goes up to a fairly decent speed. And the highest speed setting is when I change it to the bottom set of those 3 links. And when I turn it on, it starts off going at a fair lick, and then so I've changed this link here. I should have actually done that in shot perhaps, but it's in the bottom link of the 3 now, and if I turn it up, it goes up to an extremely high speed. Note that if you were to disable it and then suddenly start it again, it might not be able to start. It will just make a whistling noise because it can't launch. It needs that ramp up for that. That's where, in the case of a controller like this, you may have to turn it down to sort of 0 and then ramp it back up to the required speed again. With a microcontroller, you use I should zoom out a bit for this really, it would be better. With a microcontroller, in software, you can include a ramp so that instead of just smashing on at full speed, it does ramp it up, and it can keep that torque and keep a hold of the magnetic field. But that's more or less all that's involved in this. I am making another video, and the video will be about this. But before we finish this one, let's open the driver and take a look inside. So I'll just set that up now. Things very worthy of note. This little unit, it's quite professional. It's not that expensive. It's got a big heat sink in the back, but it's also got pluggable turner blocks, one for the power, one for the motor, and one for the control signals. Okay, now they're out, let's pop it open and take a quick look inside. So there are just 2 screws, and it's got a very, very simple construction here. If I undo this other screw, and the screws are instrumental in actually clamping the driver against the heatsink. If I lift it off, the whole lot comes off, and there's this calibrated size aluminium block underneath. Other than that, there's nothing else holding it in other than the fact the connector's just poking through. What we have in here, and I'll zoom down on this. Do I have a better? I do have a better picture of this, but I can show you the back has that. I'll zoom down and show you that it's got what I believe to be a very standard stepper motor driver chip under this big aluminium chunk. And all it does is when you screw this in, that does press with a bit of force against the back of the circuit board. There's no against the heatsink. There is no thermal paste on it. You may want to add a bit yourself if you're using these and want them just to remain that little bit cooler. Let me show you a picture of this circuit board. And I'll just give you a quick tour. Here's the incoming supply via a diode. That's quite good. Not sure that's going to go for the higher current settings. There's the dip switches off to the side. These little pairs of transistors here are the current limiters for the 3 optoisolators, the 2 ordinary ones for the enable and direction. And this optoisolator here is the high-speed digital one that deals with the pulses. There is also a 555 down here, and it's configured as a single shot. It's just providing a single pulse to something, but I'm not quite sure what they're using that in. Maybe it's for reset, or maybe it's just part of the functionality of that chip has a feature that benefits from having some sort of controlled pulse. And there are some current sensing resistors too. But that's more or less it. I won't go too deep in this video because it doesn't need to go too deep. Many of you will just want to know how you can use one of these controllers to actually control a stepper motor, either with one of these little variable speed drives or with your Arduino or whatever, where you just provide 3 logic signals, the pulses, the direction, and the enable. But that is it. These components are all readily affordable. I'll provide some links down below, and it's worth it just to maybe just have a play about with, because it gets you familiar with stepper motors. Incidentally, this is a little flange adapter for the stepper motor. You can choose it, the diameter and the hole diameter in the middle for the shaft. But that's it. All useful stuff.